All right, we've got Josh paired up with Aroldis Chapman. Let's take it through and see what we got. Okay, let's get Josh back to the start here. All right. First things first, setup. I'd like to, a lot of, big leaguers will tend to have their feet a little closer together, you know, shoulder width or even slightly a little bit less. And the thought process is to get your weight kind of more on this backside to start, so that the leg lift thrown from the stretch isn't as drastic of a move back that we'll kind of see here with Josh because he's got his feet spread so far apart. It's almost like he's hitting. Um, we'll want to, it's a simple adjustment. Just simply get our feet a little closer together. You can put that right foot a little bit in front of the left if you want to start off in more of a closed position, whatever the comfort level is there. The other thing I'll say is it's tough to see from the mound, but you'll see some guys hook the rubber where you gotta have your foot half on the rubber and half on the ground. But for the most part, most guys are going to kind of anchor it, where they just have in this case, is a left-handed pitcher, the left side of their back foot, so their left foot against the rubber. And the reason why that matters at all is because typically when you're advancing down the mound and you drive off of that back leg, the front part of your foot, so the ball of your foot up to where your toes are, tend to spin out a little bit. And so that's why if we have our foot completely anchored against the rubber, it won't spin in the opposite direction that we want it to go to, which is obviously advancing home. But I mean, some guys do like to hook it, so we can talk about that and work through it. Not a huge deal, but just something to think about. So let's go ahead and take. Actually, their hand positions are relatively close to each other. Let's see what Josh does. Does a good job of staying inside of that drive leg, the hip that is, staying inside the drive leg. Obviously a taller individual, so a little bit higher of a leg kick, which is good. You'll see the same thing here with the Aroldis. Not too far off from this standpoint. The one thing I do like that Aroldis does is, and I was actually talking to Jimmy about this the other day, but he kind of has that little hunch down when he raises that leg lift, and the reason I think it matters, and I think he might do it in others as well, is because we want to get heavy. I like to say we get heavy early in the backside of our delivery, meaning you want to pretend like there's a force plate in the ground below your foot here, and you want to get as heavy as you can into that so that we can then start to really use the ground force. So we work always from the ground up, whether we're pitching or hitting. And so I think that is something that guys like him, and I've seen some others do it. It's kind of the thought process there. It could be some rhythm as well, but I think there's some aspect of wanting to get heavy early into that backside while we build the energy up and head down towards the mound. So just something to think about there as well. Let's see what Josh does with handbrake. No problem there. I'd rather it stay in the glove a little bit longer. It looks like it kind of, before we even get down the mound, it starts to come out a little bit. So let's try to hold it in the glove a little bit longer, just from a rhythm and a balance standpoint. I think we could also stay closed a little. He's not bad from the lower half, staying closed there, but let's try to lead down the mound a little bit more with the front hip here and keep that as the lead dog as long as we possibly can. Let's see what Aroldis does here. Stays really closed. And you can see that back coil, just to switch gears here a little bit, just see the back coil of that shin and knee kind of going away from the target, really getting, starting to use the ground force there. And Josh isn't bad. I think we could work on it a little bit, and I think that's also one of the other reasons why we want to. You can kind of see that the ball of his foot and the toes there kind of flaring out a little bit, and I think if we anchor instead of hook the rubber, then you'll be able to even get more of that ground force and that torque coil away from the target there. So let's take it down through. Not a bad job of staying closed. Probably tucks it a little earlier with the glove. Let's go ahead and let that, try to elbows control the arm action. We've kind of talked about that. We'll talk a little bit more. But let's keep that, typically we want our glove arm to do the same thing that our throwing arm is when it comes to a rhythm and taking it out, heading down the mound. So we'll talk about that. Let's see where he is in front foot plant. Inside 90, slightly or right at 90 as far as the arm angle. I like that there. Ball's kind of facing the sky. I think it's tough to tell with the resolution here, but typically we want the ball to be facing the same direction as our chest. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But you can kind of see what I was talking about with Aroldis' elbow, kind of controlling things, and he keeps the integrity of this front arm up. So it's basically doing the exact same thing as his throwing arm is this entire way. And then he does an unbelievable job of hip to shoulder separation. So into front foot plant, longer legs. So Josh does a good job of extending out and does a nice job with the extension of his ankle up through his knee and into his hip, same way that Aroldis does. So good things there. I like what I see. You'll kind of see that ball's facing the same direction as his chest. He's right at 90. I'll clear that out. There's the ball. And then let's see, hip to shoulder separation. His shoulders are still pretty closed. Hip is obviously opening up, belly button or belt buckle to the target. He's one of the best at that, and you'll see Josh kind of has already opened up his shoulders a little bit more. Not bad, but this age group, it's something that we continuously work on, so we'll get there with that. I would say when we land, he's definitely pretty centered. His head's centered over his body. Kind of want our head to be directly over the belt buckle, or even just a little bit behind. Josh is in a pretty good spot there. And then I like the stride direction. Toes are lined up with that left toes are lined up with the right heel. Looks like he did a pretty good job, a good job of opening up that shin to the target. So that does allow for your belt buckle and your lower half to start to open up. So bottom line is we just need to get that top half a little more closed in the landing. And then as we go through, firms up the front side. Pretty good job of I like the finish spot here. This is one of the harder throws. Certainly, this was actually already an improvement from his prior session. Just looking at that front knee to see if it leaks before release, which it doesn't. So we want to make sure that front knee is does not get any more ahead of that heel, so that we're not leaking forward. So he does firm that up, that front side, and then we'll just take Aroldis through. Obviously does a really good job of kind of catapulting over that front side, finishing nicely. So Josh, a lot of good things here, bud. We'll keep working and just do a couple of things I think if we just make some adjustments in your stance, kind of your approach here, shorten that up a little bit, and then maybe just go ahead and get you to anchor the rubber. That'll help you get into that backside a little more. Stay closed, a hair longer, leading with that front hip, and then we'll keep working at it. So good stuff.